the invitation. By the time Harry arrived in the kitchen, the three Dursleys were already seated around the table. None of them looked up as he entered or sat down. Uncle Vernon's large red face was hidden behind the morning's daily mail, and Aunt Putania was cutting a grapefruit into quarters. Her lip pursed over her horse-like teeth. Dudley looked furious and sulky, and somehow seemed to be taking up even more space than usual. This was saying something, as he always took up an entire side of the square table by himself. When Aunt Putania put a quarter of unsweetened grapefruit onto Dudley's plate with a tremulous, "There you are, Diggy darling." Dudley glowered at her. His life has taken a most unpleasant turn since he had come home for a summer with his end of year report. Uncle Vernon and Aunt Putania had managed to an excuse for his bad marks as usual. Aunt Putania always insists that Dudley was a very gifted boy whose teachers didn't understand him, while Uncle Vernon maintained that he didn't want some swotty little Nancy boy for a son anyway. They always scattered over the accusation of bullying in the report. "He's a boisterous little boy, but he wouldn't hurt a fly," Aunt Tanya had said tearfully. However, at the bottom of the report there were a few well-chosen comments from the school nurse that not even Uncle Vernon and Aunt Tanya could explain away. No matter how much Aunt Putania willed that Dudley was a bone, and that his bondage was really puppy fat, and that he was a growing boy who needed plenty of food, the fact remained that the school outdoors didn't stock pokers big enough for him anymore. The school nurse had seen that what Aunt Putania's eyes so sharp when it came to spotting nagger print on her gleaming walls, and he is observing the coming and going of the neighbors. Simply refused to see that far from needing extra nourishment, Dudley had reached roughly the size and weight of a young killer whale. So, after many tantrums, after argument that shook Harry's bedroom floor, and many tears from Aunt Putania's, new regime had begun. The diet sheet that had been sent by the smelting school nurse had been kept to the fridge, which had been emptied of all Dursley's favorite things: drinks and cakes, chocolates and bars and burgers, and yelled instead with fruits and vegetables and the sort of things that Uncle Vernon called rabbit food. To make Dudley feel better about it all, Aunt Putania had insisted that the whole family follow the diet too. She now passed grapefruit water to Harry. He noticed that it was a lot smaller than Dudley's. Aunt Putania seemed to feel that the best way to keep up Dudley's morale was to make sure that he did at least and get to eat than Harry. But Aunt Putania didn't know what was hiding under the lowest floorboard upstairs. She has no idea that Harry was not following the diet, or the moment he had got wind of the fact that he was expected to survive the summer on the carrots, Harry had sent Hedwig to his friends' pleas for help, and they had risen to the occasion magnificently. Hedwig had returned from Hermione's house with a large box stuffed full of sugar-free snacks. Hermione's parents were dentists. Hagrid, the Hogwarts gamekeeper, had obliged with a sack full of his own homemade rock cake. Harry didn't touch this. He had had too much experience of Hagrid's cooking. Mrs. Weasley, however, had sent the family owl Earl with an enormous fruit cake and assorted meat pie. Poor Earl, who was elder and feeble, had needed a full half days to recover from the journey, And then on Harry's birthday, which the Dursleys had completely ignored, he had received 4 superb birthday cakes, one each from Ron, Hermione, Hagrid, and Cyrus. Harry still had 2 of them left, and so looking forward to the real breakfast when he got back upstairs. He ate his grapefruit without complaint. Vernon laid aside his paper with a deep sniff of disapproval and looked down at his own grapefruit butter. Is this it? He said grumpily to Aunt Putania. Aunt Putania gave him a severe look and then nodded pointedly at Dudley, who had already niched his own grapefruit quarter and was eyeing Harry's with a very sour look in his piggy little eyes. Uncle Vernon gave a great sign which ruffled his large bushy moustache and picked up his spoon. The doorbell rang. Uncle Vernon heaved himself out of his chair and set off down the hall, as fast as while his mother was occupied with the kettle. Dudley stole the rest of Uncle Vernon's grapefruit. Harry heard talking at the door and someone laughing, and Uncle Vernon answering curtly. Then the front door closed and the sound of ripping paper came from the hall. Aunt Putania set the teapot down on the table and looked curiously around to see where Uncle Vernon had got to. She didn't have to wait too long to and out after about a minute. He was back. He looked livid. You, he barked at Harry. In the living room now, bewailed, wondering what on earth he was supposed to have done this time. Harry got up and followed Uncle Vernon's out of the kitchen and into the next room. Uncle Vernon closed the door sharply behind both of them. So he said, marching over to the place and turning to face Harry as though he were about to pronounce him under arrest. So, Harry would you have dearly loved to have said, so what? But he didn't feel that Uncle Vernon's temper should be tested this early in the morning, which even it was already under several strain from lack of food. He therefore settled for looking polite puzzled. This was just arrived, said Uncle Vernon. He brandished a piece of purple writing paper at Harry, a letter about you. Harry's confusion increased. Who would be writing to Uncle Vernon about him? Who did he know who sent letter by a postman? Uncle Vernon glared at Harry, then looked down at the letter and began to read aloud. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, you have never been introduced, but I am sure you have heard a great deal from Harry about my son Ron. As Harry might have told you, the final of the Quidditch World Cup take place this Monday night, and my husband Arthur had just managed to get prime ticket through his connection at the Department of Magical Game and Sports. I do hope you will allow us to take Harry to the match, as this really is once in a lifetime opportunity. Brilliant hasn't hosted the cup for 30 years and tickets are extremely hard to come by. We would of course be glad to have Harry stay for the remainder of the summer holidays and to see him safely onto the train back to school. It will be best for Harry to send us your answer as quickly as possible in the normal way because the Muggle postman has never delivered to our house and I am not sure he even knows where it is. Hoping to see Harry soon. Your sincere Molly Weasley. I do hope we have put enough stamp on. Uncle Vernon, misreading, put his hand back into his breast pocket and drew out something else. Look at this, he growled. He held up the envelope in which Mrs. Weasley's letter had come, and Harry had to get down to a laugh. Every bit of it was covered in a stamp except for a square inch on the front into which Mrs. Weasley had squeezed the Dursleys' address in a minute writing. She did put enough stamps on them, said Harry, trying to sound as though Mrs. Weasley was a mistake anyone could make. His uncle's eyes flashed. The postman noticed, he said through gritting teeth, very interested to know where this letter came from. He was. That's why he rang the doorbell, seemed to think it was funny. Harry didn't say anything. Other people might not understand why Uncle Vernon was making a fuss about too many stamps, but Harry had lived with Dursleys too long not to know how touchy they were about anything even slightly out of the ordinary. Their worst fear was that someone would find out that they were connected, however distantly, with people like Mrs. Weasley. Uncle Vernon was still glaring at Harry, who tried to keep his expression neutral. If he didn't do or say anything stupid, he might just be in for the treat of a lifetime. He waited for Uncle Vernon to say something, but he merely continued to glare. Harry decided to break the silence. So, can I go then? He asked. A slight splash crossed Uncle Vernon's large purple face. The moustache bristled. Harry thought he knew what was going on behind the moustache. A furious battle as two of Uncle Vernon's most fundamental instincts came into conflict. Allowing Harry to go would make Harry happy, something Uncle Vernon had struggled against for 13 years. On the other hand, allowing Harry to disappear to the Weasleys for the rest of the summer would get rid of him 2 weeks earlier than anyone could have hoped. And Uncle Vernon hated having Harry in the house. He himself thinking time it seemed, he looked down at Mrs. Weasley's letter again. Who is this woman? He said, staring at letter. You have seen her, said Harry. She's my friend Ron's mother. She was meeting him off the school train at the end of last term. He had almost said Hogwarts Express. That was a sure way to get his uncle tempered up. Nobody ever mentioned the name Harry's school aloud in Dursley's household. Vernon screwed up his enormous face as though trying to remember something very unpleasing. Dumpy sort of woman, he growled Nelly. Lord of children's with red hair. Harry frowned. He thought it was a bit rich of Uncle Vernon to call anyone dumpy, when his own son Dudley had narrowly achieved what he had been treating to do since the age of 3 and become wider than he was tall. Uncle Vernon was pursuing the letter again. Quitch, he muttered under his breath. Quitch, what is this rubbish? Harry felt a second stamp of anyone's. It's a sport, he said shortly. Head on broom. All right, said Uncle Vernon loudly. Harry saw with some satisfaction that his uncle looked actually panicky. Apparently, his nerves couldn't stand the sound of the word broomstick. In his living room, he took refuge in pursuing the letter again. Harry saw his lips form the word, sent us your answer. In a normal way, he scolded. But she means the normal way, he spat. Normal for us, said Harry, and before his uncle could stop him, he added, You know, Owl Post, that's what normal for wizards. Uncle Vernon looked as outraged as if Harry had touched and praised a distinct swear word. Shaking with anger, he sought a nerve, looked through the window as though expecting to see some of the neighbors with their ear pressing against the glass. How many times do I have to tell you to mention that unnaturalness under my roof? He hissed. His face now a rich plum color. You stand there in the clothes Tanya and I have put on your ungrateful back. Only after Dudley dished with them, said Harry coldly, and indeed he was dressed in a sweatshirt so large for him that he had had to roll back the sleeves times so that as to be able to use his hands, and which fell past the knees of his extremely baggy jeans. I will not be spoken to like that, said Uncle Vernon, trembling with rage. Harry wasn't going to stand for this. Gone were the days when he had been forced to take every single one of Dursley's stupid rules. He wasn't following Dursley's diet, and he wasn't going to let Uncle Vernon stop him from going the Quidditch World Cup. What if he could help it? Harry took a deep, steady breath and then said, "Okay, I can't see the World Cup. Can I go now, then? Only I have got a letter to Cyrus I want to teach. You know my godfather. He had done it. He had said his magic words." Now he watched the purple-reded blotty from Uncle Vernon's face, making it look like badly mixed black currant ice cream. You are writing to him, are you?" said Uncle Vernon in would-be calm voice. But Harry had seen the pupil of his tiny eyes contracted with sudden fear. Yeah, said Harry casually. "It's been a while since he heard from me, and you know doesn't he might start thinking something is wrong. He stopped there to enjoy the effect of this word. He could almost see the cogs working under Uncle Vernon's thick, dark, neatly parted hair. If he tried to stop Harry writing to Cyrus, Cyrus would think Harry was being mistreated. If he told Harry he couldn't go to the Quidditch World Cup, Harry would write to tell Cyrus, who would know Harry was being mistreated. There was only one thing for Uncle Vernon to do. Harry could see conclusion forming in his Uncle Vernon's mind, as though the great moustache face were transparent. Harry tried not to smile, to keep his own face as blank as possible, and then, "Well, all right then, you can go to this this World Cup thing. You write and tell this Weasley they are to pick you up. Mind, I haven't got time to go to dropping you off all over the country, and you can spend the rest of the summer there, and you can tell your godfather, tell him you are going." "Okay then," said Harry brightly. He turned and walked toward the living room door, getting the urge to come onto the air and walk. He was going. He was going to the Weasleys. He was going to watch the Quidditch World Cup. Outside in the hall, he nearly ran into Dudley, who had been lurking behind the door, clear hoping to overhear Harry being told off. He looked shocked to see the broad grin on Harry's face. "That was an excellent breakfast, isn't it?" said Harry. "I feel really full, don't you?" laughing at the astonished look on Dudley's face. Harry took the stair 3 at times and hurled himself back into his bedroom. The next thing he saw was that Hedwig was back. She was sitting in her case, staring at Harry with enormous amber eyes and clicking her beak in the way that meant she was annoyed about something. Exactly what was annoying her became apparent most at once. "Ouch!" said Harry, as when appeared to be a small grey, feathery tennis ball collided with the side of it. Harry massaged the spot, furiously looking up to see what had hit him, and saw a minute owl small enough to get into the palm of his hand, whistling excitedly around the room like a loose network. Harry then realized that the owl had dropped a letter at his feet. Harry bent down, eyes round handwriting, then tore open the envelope. Inside was a hastily scribed note. Harry had got the tickets. Ireland versus Bulgaria. Monday night, Mum's writing to Muggles to ask you to stay. They might already have the letter. I don't. Know how fast Muggles post is? I had sent this with Pig anyway. Harry stared at the word pig and looked up at a tiny owl now zooming around the light texture on the ceiling. He had never seen anything that looked less like a pig. Maybe he couldn't read Ron's writing. He went back to the letter. We are coming for you whether the Muggles like it or not. You can't miss the World Cup. Only Mum and Dad reckon it's better if we pretend to ask their permission first. If they say yes, send Pig back with your answer pronto and we'll come and get you at 5 o'clock on Sunday. They say no, said Pig back prone and we'll come and get you at 5 o'clock on Sunday anyway. Hermione is arriving this afternoon. Percy started work. The Department of International Magical Cooperation don't mention anything about abroad while you are here unless you want the pants board office. You. See you soon, Ron. Calm down, Harry said as the small owl flew low over his head, twittering madly with what Harry could only assume was a pride at having delivered the letter to the right person. Come here, I need you to take my answer back. The owl fluttered down on the top of Hedwig's cage. Hedwig looked coldly up at it as though daring it to try to come any closer. Harry seized his eagle feather quill once more, grabbed a fresh piece of parchment, and wrote, Ron, it's all okay. The Muggles say I can come. See you 5 o'clock tomorrow. Can't wait, Harry. He folded the note up very small and with immense difficulty tied it to Tiny Owl's leg as it hopped on the spot with excitement. The moment note was secure, the owl was off again. It zoomed out of the window and out of sight. Harry turned to Hedwig, filling up to a long journey. He asked her. Hedwig hooted in a diggy-edged sort of way. Can you take this to Cyrus for me? He said, picking up his letter. Hang on, I just want to niche it. He unfolded the parchment and hastily added to postscript. If you want to contact me, I'll be at my friend Ron Weasley's for the rest of the summer. His dad got us ticket for Quidditch World Cup. The letter niched. He tied it to Hedwig's leg. He kept unusual still, as though determined to show him how a real post owl should behave. I'll be at Ron's when you get back, all right? Harry told her. She nipped his anger affectionately, then, with a soft, soothing nose, spread her enormous wing and soared out of the window. Harry watched her out of sight, then crawled under his bed, wrenched up the clothes loose floorboard, and pulled out a large chunk of birthday cake. He sat there on the floor eating it, savoring the happiness that was flooding through him. He had cake, and Dudley had nothing but grapefruit. It was a bright summer's day. He could be leaving private drive tomorrow. His car felt perfectly normal again, and he was going to watch Quidditch World Cup. It was hard just now to feel worried about anything, even Lord Voldemort. That's it for today. Thank you so much. Stay tuned for next chapter. Till then, see ya. Bye.